Hello and welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague Simon Kew. This week we mark your card for the Mansion House speech on Thursday. We send Simon off into the outer limits of the pensions universe to find some weird and wonderful stories, and then finally we come back to Earth with the Pensions Ombudsman.
It's an exciting week, Dave. We have another fiscal event. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, will be giving her first Mansion House speech later in the week. What do you think might be part of the conversation?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a massive surprise for most of it. It definitely sounds like that she's going to be interested in the local government pension scheme. So there's been lots of chat about Canada and the Canadian way. So there's the LGPS is about £350 billion of assets we're talking about spread across 84 or 6, 80 odd.
It's leaning towards
councils.
86, Dave, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, 86 local councils. And the thought is that if you bring them all together, that there can be efficiencies there and some cost savings, and also some efficiencies in where the money is invested from the government's perspective, and so accessing infrastructure and all those sorts of things. So that is expected. There are still some concerns whether that's going to resolve the government's problems of investment. We still have the supply side of things, so it's possible she says something about that and about sovereign wealth funds or some other products that are enticing for pension schemes to invest in. I would hope that she does. But then we get into the rest of the pension scheme world and all the other trillion odd worth of assets and how the government can get hold of those. And the big question of mandating investment in that stuff or encouraging investment in that stuff. And obviously we're a bit more keen on the carrot side of things, so make it enticing and make it as a good deal for schemes to invest. So we're not going to speculate here on the different ideas they might be, because we just don't know. But there could be all sorts of ideas brought about on that. And then from then on, it's a bit of a, that might be it, but there might be some other things if they're minded to say more about DC consolidation, if they're minded to talk about DB surpluses or DB consolidation at the smaller end, public sector consolidate, all those sorts of things. It's gone a bit quiet on that, but you just never know. So yeah, I think for Mansion House, I think it's going to be focusing on the money rather than people's pensions, but we'll see.
Indeed, and we also have the second part of the pensions review. The first part is closed, and we're told that the summary of that will be launched fairly soon. Part 2 on adequacy and other provisions, whether that will be announced in the Mansion House speech or will just be coincidentally around about the same time, we don't know. So again, we wait and see, as indeed does everybody else. I'm sure we'll find out very, very soon. Whatever consultations there might be as a result of that. Again, we don't know. We'll wait and see. So we could sit here and set hairs running, but that's absolutely pointless. We've seen other commentators do that, and it's got our backs up, and it's got pretty much everybody else's backs up. So let's not do it. But while we're talking about potential pensions changes, Dave, I have spotted, as our sort of semi-international roving reporter, that the Isle of Man may be removing the triple lock on pensions. Due to spiraling costs. I mean, we've said many times before about the total bill for the triple lock being significant, he says, not remembering the figure. But yeah, the Isle of Man government is considering scrapping the state pension triple lock to save its social security system. So changes afoot, perhaps.
But Simon, you're going to get a new job title, I think, now as well. So you're our international correspondent, hence the Isle of Man story a second ago. But you're also very good at just finding these odd little tidbits tucked away in the outer limits of the press. I mean, some of these aren't particularly obscure in the sense of on the Guardian and BBC, but you know what I mean. There's the sort of things that may have easily passed you by. So you've got, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to give us a rundown of some of the weird and wonderful things you've spotted.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, I think it's important for our viewer and listener to be alerted to some of the stories that aren't necessarily in the headlines. The first one I'll start with does strike me as, was it Fraser in Dad's Army, as we're all doomed? And apologies to our Scottish contingent for the dreadful accent. A letter was sent in to the Guardian, and I will read this. If the end of the world is really nigh, Should I be investing in shorter term saving schemes rather than a pension? I currently contribute 20% of my £117,000 salary to my pension, and my employer pays 5%. I'm 44 and worry about imminent world wars over dwindling resources. I find it hard to believe in a peaceful 20-year retirement beckons. Is there a way to invest in things I could access quickly if the poop really does hit the fan? Well, the response was, as you'd expect, very measured. What I say now is not guidance or any kind of advice or anything like that. I mean, if you think it's that bad, invest in mattresses and put your money under them. You invest, and if the world doesn't, or you save, and if the world doesn't end, you've got some money. And if you have saved and the world ends, well, I think you've got bigger things to worry about, quite frankly. On the flip side to that, though, a chap in Southampton, Richard, who is 56, through a campaign with the Money and Pensions Service, checked into his pensions and found that he had saved £70,000 that he didn't know he had. So Richard in Southampton was very, very happy. He said, I didn't check my pension. So it was a huge surprise to find out how much money I'd saved. So we've got someone who's doom-mongering and somebody's very happy that he's saved a little bit of money. One other story, and this is something we covered a little while back, Dave, was the North East Scotland Pension Fund led a class action against Under Armour in the States for £334 million, $434 million. Under Armour have denied that any of their advertising was false, so they've complied with the case, but they haven't admitted any culpability there. But the court has confirmed that the settlement will be paid. So any SPF. Goodness me, it's early on a Monday, folks. Yeah, the Scottish Pension Fund will be receiving some money as a result of that fairly soon, as indeed will all of the others that took part in that class action against Under Armour. So 3 stories there covered off fairly quickly, one fairly doom-laden and the other 2 relatively positive. Dave, your favourite topic is back in the news, the pensions ombudsman. If Dominic Harris is listening to this, and who knows, he may well be, I hope you appreciate the plugs pretty much every other week. Dave, what have you found?
Oh, I really hope he does, because anyway, I'm not going to gush about the ombudsman. So the pension ombudsman has again, well, this isn't really news. This is kind of something I've just spotted, and I think it's something we've not mentioned yet. So it's all part of their sort of rejig the way they handle complaints to deal with the backlog and make things better for people and schemes that have issues. So there's an expedited service, which is similar to the early resolution service, it feels like from the outside anyway. But this means that cases that have already gone through the internal dispute resolution procedure, as you know, that is now the route into the ombudsman, can be dealt with if it's a relatively simple query. So something along the lines of, I don't know, something that happens fairly frequently is that, you know, benefit statements have a misquoted value on, and people have an expectation to that value, but just because somebody made a mistake and put the wrong number doesn't mean that's what you will get. Those kind of complaints can be dealt with via the expedited service, and so can deal with complaints quickly and more efficiently for everybody. Saves costs for administrators and trustees, and gets to the end for the member, so they're not, you know, constantly arguing with their administrators by the ombudsman. So just be aware that is out there as well. So if you're going through a complaint with the ombudsman, they may well use that service and get you to the end quickly.
Talking of getting people to the end more quickly, Dave, that's exactly what we've done for another week of Pensions in 10. Thank you to our viewer and listener for bearing with us. It's always lovely to have you join us for our ramblings. You know what to do. Like, subscribe. We can arrive in your inbox. You know the drill. Do get in contact with us and let us know what you think. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Take care.